camera and how I press the record.
Introduce me.
Hello, here is a moment where Akiva is speaking about his very expressive drawing that he did in his summer in Poland, and is full of meaning and history. And yeah, here you start. Go, Akiva.
So I did this drawing. It's called Haystacks, Rytro, Poland, 1984. And I was, in the summer of '84, I took my first trip to Europe, which was entirely in Poland, 6 weeks through the Kosciuszko Foundation of New York. I was with the art group. We were at the Academy of Fine Arts in Krakow, and we went down for about a week to this town called Rytro in the Tatra Mountains, where I did 2 complete drawings. This is one of them. The other one I have at home in Seattle. I'm at relatives in the East Coast of the U.S. And I did this outdoors in plein air, as it's called in French, and seated outside on a hillside looking down, and there were all these beautiful haystacks. And I did it in pencil, then in ink, and later on, one evening there, I added the watercolor. And it was very beautiful countryside. In fact, the whole experience in that region of Poland was fantastic, because there were we were in a small village. We were staying in a some sort of lodge whose other guests were like families. I understood party functionaries, people who joined the Communist Party, and as I understood it from Polish academic friends in Krakow, nobody joined the party out of belief, but people joined the party because they wanted to get a refrigerator sooner than 5 years, or a stove, or whatever it might be, a better flat to live in. So there were these like kind of middle-class families with children in the and then there was the art group. There were about 10 of us, and there were several days where we were all out landscape drawing, and there were animals out and about, farm animals, cows, chickens, I forget what else, which also astonished me, because it was like walking into a Bruegel painting from the 1600s, one of these kind of rural Flemish kind of bucolic farm scenes. I could never tell whose animals belonged to who, and I remember joking they would serve us these chicken soups in the evening that were kind of tough, gamey kind of birds. And we'd kid around amongst ourselves. There were about 7 or 8 Americans, a Scot named Matt Fahrenholtz, good friend of mine. There was an art history student from Toronto, and the 2 faculty members in the Academy of Fine Arts that, they must have just rounded up this chicken right that afternoon to go into the pot. The whole summer itself was an incredible eye-opener for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is that I'm Jewish, an American Jew, my first trip to Poland, and there were vestiges of Jewish life everywhere. In a way, I felt, even though I was conscious of things, we would hear, remember we were in a town square. We pulled in the bus we were driven around in, and someone mentioned that all the Jews in this town had been rounded up in like a square plaza, and everyone was shot. People were deported everywhere, to Auschwitz or other death camps, but I actually didn't know the history of the 4 towns we visited in southern Poland until much later. We were at Rytro, Nowa Sącz, a larger town, a very small town called Stara Sącz, and we were also in Zakopane. Each of these towns or villages had pre-war Jewish populations from as small as 45 to several thousand, and almost all of them were murdered. When we were in Zakopane, we went to a flea market, and there was a guy with a table selling these beautiful old leather-covered, with Hebrew writing tooled in the covers, like religious books of some sort, and I could only imagine that, but however many years it was earlier, 40 years after the war ended at the time in 1984, 85, that, you know, Jews had vanished, and local people, you know, basically inherited their belongings, and here it was 39 years later, and someone was selling these books. But I developed a keen love of landscape painting during this trip. There's a National Museum in Krakow in the old city center, where there's just a wealth of beautiful landscape paintings, and it was, for me, it was aside from the sadness of seeing being in Poland, the world's largest Jewish graveyard, having a whole new appreciation of landscape, and as an artist, doing landscape and appreciating landscape and being in the countryside. That's it. Thank you.